That is kind of the funny thing about that game, though. Everyone is essentially role-playing a depressed Metternickian prince.
Yes, everyone has a really great reason to come at you.
The game in question, by the way, is Vampire the Requiem, sort of an old-school tabletop RPG. I guess not old school.
Old school? Well, it was released, like, close to 20 years ago now, so...
I don't know, I guess it depends how old you are. It's old school to me.
Most people are more familiar with Vampire the Masquerade, which is the thing that... That was the first version of it, and then Vampire the Requiem was the second version, and most people prefer Vampire the Masquerade. I actually tend to prefer Requiem. I like the mood and world a little bit better.
And in a vampire game, I imagine mood is basically the thing you're selling.
Well, like, Masquerade has a little bit more of a Devil May Cry kind of vibe to it, whereas Requiem...
I may request a change to this campaign.
It's pretty fucking balls to the wall.
Sam, wait. So you're telling me that you chose the one where I can't make this party get crazy?
There's a whole lot of turning into snakes.
Eyebrows up.
They're dudes who turn into snakes in Masquerade. In Requiem, it's just a little bit dialed down.
So you're saying is that I'm going to be able to turn into snakes?
You're not going to be able to turn into a snake. You cannot turn into a snake.
Why should I even live? What am I even on this fucking planet for?
I'm sorry that you cannot. Well, actually, snake, yes. Giant snake, no.
There was this ray of hope, and then I learned from my new perch what else was denied to me.
You cannot be a giant snake.
I lust for greater powers.
Look,
yet.
you can do that in D&D. You can do that in D&D. You can play a druid. There.
Yeah, but I'm the one who always DMs in fucking D&D.
Well, I'm DMing this time. It's gonna be Vampire the Requiem, not Masquerade.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Also, I don't want any of your fucking emails, by the way, Masquerade stands. I don't want any of them. I've heard them all. I've heard every argument. I don't care. I like Requiem better.
I mean, I don't know. What are they going to do? Break into your table?
They could. Stranger things have happened.
True. Ooh, that'd be a good lawsuit. Let's see if can we provoke them into that? Like, just throw some real vampire hot takes out there.
What's my favorite hot take?
Violence. I am inciting you, the listener, to violence.
The Carthians are objectively correct.
The Carthians are correct. Now that you've heard this, take this information internally and literally and commit violence because of the podcast Weeaboo Hell by Denardale and Sam Lego. I'm not going to die elderly, am I?
You don't have legal insurance through work anymore because you quit your job. So this comes back to us in some way. This is all on you. I am washing my fucking hands.
Oh man, you're right. It is all on me, Eric Adams, incoming mayor of New York, the person inciting people to violence on this podcast, Weeaboo Hell, run by the harmless citizen Denard Dale, who I have strong-armed into inciting violence. Impeach me.
That'll do it right there. That'll get him.
I don't know. I need a second volley. I did have my fun. Wait, no, I'm not going to take credit for the thing I did to...
Shut up. You can wait like 3 months.
Okay. The war doesn't have to start yet. So, what we're actually going to talk about anime-wise today...
Oh, yeah, that thing.
Or rather, manga-wise, because we are returning to the book reports, the book club. I like book reports better than book club.
Book report, yeah.
Book report.
Mine wasn't a book.
God damn it.
Oh, did I tip my hand too early there?
You piece of shit. It could have been easy.
Oh, did you want to do a punchline?
Yeah, you sort of drag my punchline across the glass or whatever. Okay, so I read a book because I'm literate. I don't know, you'll see there's sort of a gap in the seriousness.
I read books. I just read C.V. Wedgwood's History of the 30 Years' War.
Until I've read it, I'm pretending you made that up.
It's kind of dry.
Mm-hmm.
Just a whole bunch of rich people being fucking obstinate morons while millions die.
So, Sam, since you did not read a book, what did you watch?
I watched Thrice Upon a Time. Evangelion 3+1.
That's right, everyone, and I would have been there for that viewing, but I was asleep.
I think you were asleep. Yeah, I think I watched it at like 1 a.m. last week.
Take me on this journey. Oh, and in case it's not clear, the concept behind the book report is that we have both watched or read two different things and sort of relay the shit.
So, I can't just say, right? Oh yeah, I watched the new Evangelion thing. That's kind of denying it the preamble that it sort of has earned over the last 25 years-ish or so, going on 30 now.
Yeah, if anything in anime has earned a little portentousness.
Yeah, so I'm not just gonna be like, oh yeah, I watched the new Evangelion movie. I kind of liked it. I kind of need to give you some context here. Although, up front, I fucking loved it. So, we begin.
We try not to bury the lead here on Weeaboo Hell.
But 20 years ago, an event happened that changed the face of the modern world.
Third Impact?
Completely. Okay, so the joke here was supposed to be that you thought of 9/11, but I was about to say end of Evangelion. So I guess now it's my turn to be the asshole. Whose punchline got fucked up. Thanks a lot, Dickless.
I'm here all week.
Alright, so End of Evangelion happens, right? And I think it is fair to say that End of Evangelion might be the most frustrating event in anime history. Mm-hmm. Like, I cannot honestly think of anything else but, I don't know, the cancellation of Konosuba, maybe? Maybe?
Frustrating events in anime history.
Yeah, what is the most frustrating event in anime history?
Let's see. I would put forward Tomatoes, but that's...
That is frustrating. It is a frustrating event.
It's not as frustrating as End of Evangelion.
No, End of Evangelion was this promised ending that we got because the series Evangelion ends on, that weird fucking art film, right? I liked it, by the way, but, it's not really an ending so much as a whole, all right, well, here's just all of the ideas that this series had, sort of just... We're kind of just going to answer all these ideas. Not the events. Fuck the events. I don't care about the events anymore. We're just talking about the ideas now. And that was interesting. Certainly. But people, people want an ending. People wanted, to see the literal end of the events that they, had been following for 24 episodes now. They wanted to see what happened. And sure, cannot blame them. Although there is this...
Mm-hmm.
You could call it anti-intellectual sort of obsession with the literal way in which things play out in a story, right? Metaphor be damned. Even if that's the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
And in Evangelion, it certainly was. But they wanted to know what the fuck took place. So, End of Evangelion happens, and it is perhaps what took place during those last two episodes, right?
Kinda, sorta,
maybe. You could ask Hideaki Anno, but he does not have an answer for you. He doesn't actually give enough of a shit to have an answer for you.
Not that kind of guy. He's thinking about Godzilla.
He's thinking about Godzilla, or, I don't know, what he's gonna talk with his therapist about next week. So End of Evangelion happens, and it is... Things happen in End of Evangelion, to its credit. Things happen. I don't even know why I'm talking about this. Everyone knows what happened. It's a deeply frustrating, kind of downer movie that ends with everyone getting turned into fucking orange liquid, except Shinji and Asuka, who were left alone on a beach as Rei's head is in... Everyone fucking knows this image. I feel insane just describing it. You all, you're listening to an anime podcast. You know what the last shot of Evangelion is.
I was twisted when I watched that, by the way.
Like you were drunk when you watched?
Completely wasted.
Okay. I thought you were referring to, the event twisted you. It definitely twisted me. Here's the thing. I'm not special. I had the same reaction everyone had. I was like, what the fuck? This is the literal, end of the events that I've...
Boy, is it on brand.
And so it's not what anyone was looking for. It was not satisfying. That's the key event there. There was no catharsis, really. Not the kind of catharsis that people were looking for. They were looking for, I don't even know that they were looking for a happy ending, but they were looking for an ending that they could understand, that they could kind of get their teeth around, right?
Right.
So, end of Evangelion, I'm pretty certain. I cannot think of another event in the history of fandom that caused, or that was itself the inception of an entire fucking genre of fan fiction. Like a series itself, right? That can be something upon which a lot of fan fiction is based. You can have like Harry Potter, Pokemon, Teen Titans. All three of these series I happen to know have just a whole lot of fan fiction written about them, right? Mm-hmm. But it's the series, not the actual just event. But End of Evangelion and the last 2 episodes of Neon Genesis Evangelion, they compel an entire generation of fan fiction writers to rewrite the series in such a way that it doesn't happen like that. And I think that's fascinating. I think it's admirable that people are looking for their own answers because Hideaki Anno is not fucking giving them any. Even as a professed anti-fan fiction person. What's up?
When I took music classes at Princeton, the professor loved to tell a story about his professor and how students would do all these various sweeping technical arrangements to try to find ways to, manipulate and defy form. And if someone left a chord unresolved, the guy would just tap his knee and it would just walk in there and just slam the final note on the fucking piano because he was not having that shit. And I think about that sometimes.
It's not a bad metaphor, yeah.
Go on. It just reminded me of that story.
Certainly. And I think that's an understandable instinct to have. When something is begun, you sort of expect it to end. Because that is just, it is in our nature to want that. Mm-hmm. And End of Evangelion was not, it was an ending, but not really in the way that people needed it to be after, what they'd been put through, right? What they had been promised, or what they felt that they had been promised. So, in the absence of Hideaki Anno giving them what they had been promised, they sort of took things into their own hands. Most of these fan fictions, I've actually read a few of them, because I think the frustration that went into all of this is absolutely fucking fascinating to me. There's something so raw and human about just wanting to wring the answers out of air.
Primordial ass pain.
Sort of just pull it into existence because it doesn't exist. Most of these, in some way, shape, or form, have most, or at least a lot, to do with the sort of unresolved question of the relationship between Shinji Ikari and Asuka Langley Soryu. Or is it Asuka Soryu Langley? It's not even her name in the Rebuild of Evangelion anymore. It's Asuka Langley Shikanami? Or is it Soryu Shikanami? They changed her last name. Don't chase
the white rabbit.
Yeah, I'm not going to chase the white rabbit. It's Soryu Langley. It was Soryu Langley. Because that was the biggest thing that they wanted to see resolved. They wanted some fucking answer to, like, what are these fucking kids to one another? And you will see that be the centerpiece for an entire genre of fan fiction. Usually they try to resolve it positively in some way. It is rare to see it any other way. I think not just the plurality, but the majority of the Evangelion fan fiction community is pro Shinji Asuka. Right?
Almost a personality test.
Well, here's the thing. If the choice is between, a deeply, deeply unhealthy love-hate relationship and a literal clone of your fucking mother.
Pornhub. Okay. Go on.
Then I guess, if it has to be one of them, then sure, the unhealthy love-hate relationship, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I
Mom is not a serious option.
it's just, no, fuck, Jesus, no. Okay, so there's...
I'm not even sure I could hang out with a clone of my mom.
No, that'd be super fucking weird.
Yeah.
Super fucking weird. Rey was super fucking weird. I think a whole lot of people ended up adoring Rey when Rey herself was intended to be super weird, super creepy, kind of off-putting. You're not really meant to like her. They liked her anyway.
So, where does this flying saucer land in the film?
So we're just going to take the question of Shinji and Asuka, right? We're just going to take it, we're just going to kind of put it up in the corner where you can see it but not pay attention to it right now, because it's honestly ancillary to what Rebuild of Evangelion's mission was. Rebuild of Evangelion's mission was to revisit the questions that Hideaki Anno was asking in the original series and in End of Evangelion, to sort of revisit all of those feelings that he was sort of putting into the series. Because people change. They do. People change as they get older, as they, have newer, different experiences in life. And
so we can get the Wellbutrin Eva here.
yeah, he has come to different conclusions about the ideas that he originally went into Evangelion with, right? And that is what Rebuild of Evangelion is. That is him coming at those ideas with new perspective on them. And the events in question end up diverging really, really drastically from how they originally went in the series. The first Rebuild movie, 1.0 or 1.11, was like the, sort of like director's cut, had a few extra scenes in it. That this is a trend that continues for all 4 films. That is more or less just a retelling with a few interesting differences of the first, I want to say, 6 or 7 episodes of Evangelion. Then in the second movie, things super fucking diverge. They introduce Asuka. It's a little bit different. Shinji's character arc goes in a very different direction. It seems to be like going in a, oh, right, he's going to actually stand up for himself this time. He's got something that he wants to live for, kind of deal.
Spine transplant.
And then 3.0 is not just diverge, it's just completely different. Like, at that point, the events of the original series are completely abandoned, and this has now become its own story. 3.0, or 3.33 for the whatever. Evangelion 3. Rebuild of Evangelion 3 is a fucking phenomenal piece of cinema. This is me kind of borrowing James's take on it a little bit, because he put it into words really well, but it functions as this fantastic metaphor for a type of anxiety where you're convinced that it's all your fault and everyone knows that it's your fault and they blame you for it being awful, for whatever the hell it is being awful, but you're not really sure why, but you know that it's true. What happens at the end of Evangelion 2 is Shinji, in an effort to save Rei's life, causes not third impact, but what is referred to as near third impact, that is only stopped when Kaji sacrifices his life. That is how he dies in this version of Evangelion, right?
Okay.
But just because third impact didn't completely happen does not mean that the world is not fucked now, because it totally fucking is. Most of humanity dies.
2.9 impact.
Yes. And 3.0 happens 12 years later. I think Shinji spends that entire time unaging, trapped inside the entry plug. It's fun times for Shinji Ikari. And when he comes out, he realizes what has happened. And you know that spine transplant that you were talking about?
Yeah.
Can only do so much for a guy. And he spends the movie... Yeah, he spends the movie kind of trying to fix his mistake in a way that is only going to make things worse. And it's just such a fucking great metaphor for being self-destructive and racked with mental illness in a way that is not being addressed in any healthy or constructive way.
Cool.
This all culminates in him, sort of having a similar relationship to Kaworu that he did in the series, and it ends differently, but also the same, in that he watches Kaworu die right in front of him. He does not himself kill him this time. He is not forced to kill him this time, but Kaworu's head explodes right in front of him, as they're both inside the entry plug for the Evangelion.
Walking Wellbutrin.
It's not great for him. And so that is the place that we find ourselves in 3+1. I don't know what it takes. I guess it's 3.0 plus 1.0, but I'm not gonna fucking say all that. So it's either 3+1 or it is Thrice Upon a Time. There we go.
New Ava.
And this is the film where all the ideas that he's revisiting reach their different conclusions. Where you've got sort of the answer to all of the unanswered questions that, Shinji and his character arc kind of have throughout the first iterations of the franchise. Mm-hmm. These themes of loneliness and... how we harm the people that we care about in ways that we do not understand and cannot control, and how, whether it is preferable to be alone or to be with people and to hurt them and be hurt by them, right? Mm-hmm. And the conclusion that, is sort of reached here is that you sort of have to be okay with yourself. You have to learn to be okay with yourself, mm-hmm. right? And often that means being among people and sort of accepting that you might hurt them. But they very well might help you. And usually that's what they do. And you sort of just have to, you have to have a little bit of faith, that these people, care for you and want to help you, right? You need to sort of accept that, like Shinji's issue, right? Shinji's issue in the first version of Evangelion was that he had such an inferiority complex, right? He had an inferiority complex to the degree where he cannot conceive of the idea that anyone actually, cares for his well-being, right. Because he thinks that why would they? What reason? What possible reason could they fucking have? But what he sort of comes to understand, over the course of the series, and especially like the first act of this final movie, is that like they don't need one. People are just kind of okay sometimes, and it's okay that you're not right now, that you are less than okay, but you will be eventually. And that is sort of how he completes his character arc. And it's really...
Our journey away from Cum Susser Todd, huh?
Yes. There's a whole lot of really fun little shout-outs to End of Evangelion in the second half of this movie that I enjoyed quite a bit.
Cool.
Because, as you can imagine,
it has to have, like, a relationship with that movie. Like,
oh, absolutely. Yeah. The way that they resolve Shinji and Asuka's relationship, right? The final scene in which they resolve Shinji and Asuka's relationship, not just in this series, but across all of time, is, during weird fucking Evangelion events where it all takes place, and, they just are back on that beach again, just sort of having an honest conversation this time instead of her trying to choke him out. And they're like, the kind of gist you get is just like, yeah, I liked you. You liked me. Probably wouldn't have worked out. And kind of there you have it right there. It's honestly a very simple answer to a question
Wow.
that has been plaguing people for 25 fucking years now.
I'm so glad those people get the climax now. That's a very simple, sane answer to that question.
It is. It's. It's such an obvious answer too. Is the other thing, and then
I have just a little thought here.
sure.
A little article came out saying that, like, you know, if your Marvel whatever thing got turned into a movie, you got a sum total of $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Anno's therapist, when this movie came out, got $5,000.
I would like to be Anno's therapist and watch this movie and be like, good, it's all been for something.
It's all coming together.
I have not wasted my time with this man. And here's the thing that I'm sure at least one or two people are probably pretty upset by, but I kind of liked. All right, so in the second movie, right, they introduced this character named Marie Makanami Illustrious. She's the one who screams Zabista.
Oh, yeah.
Her. So she is sort of introduced as this kind of, I guess you could call it like a parody of OCs at first. She's ultimately pretty well adjusted, literally drops out of the fucking sky into this movie.
Great.
Pretty well adjusted, drops out of the sky, has, you know, a whole thing, is stacked, and I'm not saying this because, like, I'm looking at her character design like, ooh, tits. No, like, they keep going out of their way to tell you. And because it's like an OC thing. So she has this sort of, she feels out of place in a very interesting way, in that, like, again, in that she has been inserted into this, much like a self-insert character or an OC from an Evangelion fanfiction. That is sort of my take on this character. And the conclusion that is reached is, like, at the end of the film, at the very end of the film, and spoilers, yeah, I guess it's been a spoiler alert this whole time. At the very end of the film, instead of the decision that Shinji makes in End of Evangelion, where he's like, yeah, instrumentality, cool, got it, and everyone, you know, disappears into Tang. The conclusion that he draws, and it seems to draw about halfway through the movie, and then explain himself to, you know, I think it's Rei. Explains himself to Rei, at the very, very end, is, yeah, this shit with Evangelions is fucked. I'm just gonna, instead of, like, instrumentality, that's fucked too. I don't know why anyone would want that. I'm just gonna sort of just redo things so that none of this weird shit with angels or Evangelions or any of that ever existed. It's just gonna, that's all fucked. That was the problem with all of this. It's so fucked, we're not gonna do it. And so the very final scene of Rebuild of Evangelion is, he's just dating Marie now. They're adults. They have a very healthy relationship. None of this has happened.
That is astounding, and that adds whole new axes to this self-insert thing.
But I like...
So what kind of, like, fourth layer metafiction shit is that?
I like it because there are a couple different ways that you can interpret it. But what I like is Anno being like, yeah, Asuka and Shinji's relationship was so impossibly unhealthy that I'd prefer he hook up with an OC self-insert.
Damn. That's incredible.
And then there's this really fantastic sequence of events that precedes you know, the final scene, where he sort of reconciles his relationship with most of the main characters, including Gendo, where Gendo gets this whole scene, not just a scene, this whole sequence where he and Shinji sort of explain themselves to one another. And honestly, that was what I'd been missing this whole time, was, you know, he and his dad sort of just fucking sitting down for a second to hash things out. Where, you know, Gendo kind of, like, explains where he's been coming from this entire time and who he is as a person. And as despicable as he is, you know, throughout all of this, it is when he finally seems to become human. And this is, like, he literally made himself into an angel. Again, Evangelion's weird. Over the course of this last movie, and it is at this point when he is finally human. When he finally, just talks about what a fucking weird dude he is. Just how immensely lonely he has been his entire life, much like Shinji, and how, like, things should have been different. He did wrong by his son just horribly, and, like, kind of sees that now and wishes that he hadn't.
I wish I got a reality reset to talk to my dad. No, I didn't. It wouldn't be productive. Go on.
Yes. He ends up having similar scenes with Asuka in which they sort of, are like, you're hot, but again, it wouldn't have worked.
For a second, I thought you meant that Gendo had a similar scene with Asuka.
No, Shinji.
Like, oh wow, they added a whole new axis of darkness to this one. I see. Gotta balance the cosmic checkbook, I guess. It's like, old Deathstroke Gendo.
As well as Kaworu and Rei. He also has such scenes with Kaworu and Rei.
Cool.
As they just sort of put everything to bed. It's very, like, on a metatextual level, it is Anno being like, all right, fine, about the whole thing. Nice. Like, giving people, like, because this is what people have been clamoring for ages now.
There's a reason that episodes of Community end with that little musical sting coming in and people talking about their feelings very directly for 45 seconds.
This movie was him not playing coy anymore. This was him finally just giving people what they'd been begging him for like 20 years now. And goddamn, he fucking threads the needle too. I haven't even mentioned, the kind of interesting action set pieces that happen in this. They're real fucking out there. They are way the fuck more out there than you remember from the original series or even End of Evangelion. Like, the most out there fight in End of Evangelion was Oscar versus the the mass production model Evangelions, right? No, it's so much fucking weirder in this. There's, like, this whole thing where they use battleships as shields. It's a little nuts.
Cool.
You might like it, you might not. It's way the fuck more Super Robot.
I can live with that stuff.
And like a bunch of it is because of Marie's presence, who is a Super Robot character.
Yeah.
It was like, again, I cannot stress enough how fine she is throughout all of this. Like, from the second she is introduced in the second movie, she is extremely well adjusted. She has no issues with any of this.
Oh boy, guys, this is a high-intensity situation we're in, huh?
She shows up. Like, it's great. After this whole fucking sequence where, Shinji visits all of the people he has been, like, closest with and most at odds with and has, like, his little reconciliation with all of them. Her Evangelion just sort of bursts into the vision and she shows up as like, hi, it's me now.
Just fucking... Imagine your reaction to the entire arc of just being in the background of all the Evangelion bullshit, putting one of those hang in there fucking cat posters up on the wall.
She's just with it. She's just really with all of this.
Impressive. I need to import some of that energy into my psyche.
Yeah, no, we could all stand to be a little bit more like Marie. Honestly, she is best girl.
Good for her. She's stable. She's not his mom. She's in his age bracket.
Oh, she's not.
Oh.
That's the thing. Everyone in this is older than they actually are. It happened starting with the third film, although Marie is implied to be a descendant of Judas Iscariot, for what it's worth. And I don't think it's worth much. I think that might just be...
meaningless Catholic static per Eva tradition.
Yes, exactly. It's because I don't think it's cool.
All right.
And also is Gendo's age or something, but doesn't age. Neither did Shinji for a good long while. Neither did Asuka. And Asuka's also a clone in this too.
Cool.
There's all sorts of like stuff that's kind of offhandedly mentioned.
God, another version of him is still on that island somewhere.
Oh yeah, and also they sort of talk about how this entire series of events has been recurring thousands of times. So the end of Evangelion and the series that we saw was part of the cycle of recurrence, and this movie right here is the end of that recurrence. So Shinji finally gets his shit together and says, "No, enough of this, no more.
Man,
We all get to be friends now."
Dark Tower, Mass Effect, Evangelion. We are really into this try again structure of. It's interesting.
Well, it's because failure is such this part of the human experience. You know, failure and fucking up and, fucking things up in a way that you cannot fix until you realize that you can.
Handy metaphor. I love the Dark Tower handling of it. Just same start, only has the horn of "Don't be a dick." Any other notes on Thrice Upon a Time, aka 3.1415926?
No, I've been gushing about it for about 35 minutes. Now it's your turn.
Cool. I'm gonna use the bathroom first.